Humans are hardwired to get along, get ahead, and find meaning. How people work toward those goals and the extent to which they achieve them is determined by their personalities.
Personality determines what people do in general, but some people are a lot more influential than others, and that's because they are in positions of leadership. And if we understand what those people are like, how they get along, how they get ahead, how they find meaning, we will be able to predict how the group or other people, the followers, will behave.
So the real issue is how successful is group effectiveness. You can only have a successful career if you're in an effective group.
Groups came about quite naturally, and it was a function of survival. In Neanderthal days, to survive, you had to survive with others. Survival of the fittest was not an individual matter.
There's competition within groups for status. There's competition between groups for survival. Warfare was the most important factor driving human evolution.
It was a matter of whether or not we as a group can defeat the animals that are trying to kill us, if not the other people across the river, human beings like us who are trying to get the resources they think we have.
And so it was a time when you got these groups living in the forest in competition for one another, and the competition is quite deadly. You're living here, they're living there. They at some point decide they like your resources better than their resources. They come to get your resources. They don't come with their lawyers. They come, to get it. And if they're successful, they don't just take your resources away from you, they kill you and they eat you. And if you're someone else's dinner, that means you disappear from the gene pool, and there goes your reproductive success.
But I think probably what evolved was something we refer to today as leadership, and that is that some of the people in the group were much more skilled at being able to help us to survive than others. And so we tended to follow those that seemed to know more about what the hell they were doing than just any of us.
That's why leadership is so important. It's a fundamental resource for the group, for the survival and the effectiveness of teams.
Where did the first theory of leadership come from? It came from something called the great man theory.
It looked at what are the characteristics inside people that make them good leaders. And what you do is you get the good presidents and the bad presidents and the good generals and the bad generals and the good this and the bad that. And you find out what they have in common.
So Alexander the Great would be compared with, say, Julius Caesar. And if there were similarities between the two, we're onto something. Then you would take that profile of the two of them and compare it with, say, Napoleon, and to see what was in common with all three.
And the assumption is that all the good ones had this in common, and therefore that makes you a good leader.
Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Napoleon had some things in common. Number one, all three were short. Today, if you're not 6'2", you're not going to make it. All three were left-handed. The third thing they all had in common, at various stages of each man's life, each one contracted venereal disease. So therefore we can conclude, can't we, that a successful leader is one who is short, left-handed, and risk taker. How about that?